Since coming out with the PixiFlood driver, I've solicited input on what can I do to make it better. Based on that input, I have now created a new version of the driver. The changes to it are minor, but some of the examples are, one of the number one feedbacks I got was the pads underneath the PT4115 were too small. They would like to see them bigger so they would be easier to solder on using non-reflow techniques. Increase the pad size. Hopefully that will make it easier and will do away with some of the issues that people have had trying to get them soldered on. Some of the other changes that have been requested were the 4.7 resistors on the back edge were really tight together, and if you weren't real careful, you would join two of those solders, and unfortunately it was joining a DIM pin, or should I say the WS2811, with a 5-volt data signal. So in effect that channel would be locked on. So what I've done is, if you look at the picture, you can see that I have spread it out and opened up that gap, hopefully to make it much easier to solder on. In order to accommodate the larger pads and the spacing, I had to move a few things around. If you'll notice, the 12-volt test pad has been moved from its location, right behind the plugs, over to the left-hand edge. That was also done because if you look at the videos, you'll see once you start getting parts on, it's kind of tricky to reach that pad. So I moved it out in the open so you'd be able to check your voltage without too much problems. Speaking of moving things around so you can check test pads, the biggest change in my mind, besides the increasing the PT4115 pad size, is I have redistributed the transistors. The entire purpose of that was to be able to move and make the test points available, the ones closest to the edge, or if you're looking at it with PixiFlood on the bottom to the far right, those are all mapped back to the WS2811. The ones next to it or to the left all map back to the DIM pins. So in effect, you have the output coming out of the WS2811, then the other one is the output coming out of the transistor. So you should have no troubles now testing it. To me, the biggest change that makes, in stage 3, it's basically everything is built without the inductors and the LED. Going forward, I'm going to go ahead and start installing the inductors. The only reason I didn't install the inductors as part of stage 3 with the 1.7 is you couldn't get to the test points easily. As a matter of fact, if you take a look, you couldn't even see them. On soldering the WS2811, you would actually fill the test pad up with solder. So I think this arrangement's much cleaner, and I think it will lead to easier assembly, but most definitely easier testing. The 1.9 versions will be available next time I do a group buy. Thank you for your time. Oh, from a testing perspective, there is no changes. The only thing that's really moved is the locations, but all of the same parts are on this board. So I would still test it the same way I always have. Thank you.